Hi there, you're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. My name is Heather Barrow, and I am a registered clinical nutritionist with my business Food for Life. So I'm located at G's Pharmacy in Taradale, and I've been there for a few years now. I have a special guest on our show today, which I'm very happy to welcome, and this is Neil Evans from Evans Osteopath. Welcome, Neil.
Thanks, Heather. It's great to be here.
And I just thought it would be great to have Neil on the show because, you know, people kind of know what chiropractors do and that sort of thing. But I know when I moved to New Zealand 10 years ago and I saw osteopaths everywhere, I thought, I don't really know what they do. And now that I've been here 10 years, I do know what they do. And I thought listeners could just get a little taste of what osteopathy is. And I do believe that it really complements nutrition as well. So, Neil, do you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. Just tell you a little bit about our practice and where we are and stuff like that first. I'm actually working in a practice called Evans Osteopath that I started in 2004. I have a background where I qualified in the UK in 1990. I worked in a busy practice in East Yorkshire and then made my way to New Zealand with my wife and kids, and we started the practice in 2004. And since 2004, we've gradually grown, and we now have a practice in Waipukurau opposite New World Supermarket, as well as our Hastings practice, which is near 2 blocks up from Pack and Save. And I now have 5 different associates working with me, so we offer quite a broad range of treatment techniques. You asked me, Heather, what is osteopathy? And to be honest, it's quite funny because that is one of the hardest questions to answer. And if you asked 20 osteopaths, they probably all say something slightly different. So in our practice, we're quite lucky because we do offer a range of treatment from a range of different people. Everybody does osteopathy a little bit different. But to try and get to your question, osteopathy was founded by a gentleman called A.T. Still in the 1870s. Now, A.T. Still, Andrew Taylor Still, was actually a physician, and medicine in the 1870s was certainly nothing like it is today. And they were using things like arsenic and leeches, and A.T. Still got a little bit disillusioned because even though he was a physician himself, his wife and his 3 children all died of diseases that he couldn't help with. And he became very frustrated with the structure of how the medicine was going, and the medicines themselves were more harmful than the actual diseases. So he started looking into anatomy. He was really into anatomy, and he was into his bones and things like that, and he started looking at bones, and he came up with the theory of how the structure of your bones affect the function of the body. And from there, he built on that and developed osteopathy. And osteopathy is a fully hands-on, sort of non-invasive manual therapy. And your osteopath will look through your body and find out where there's any dysfunction in the bones and joints. And we try to relieve those dysfunctions with gentle techniques, manipulation, articulations, and things like that. And it's all hands-on.
So that's fantastic. So that was a great description, I thought.
Yeah, there's plenty more probably, but yeah.
So if someone comes to see you for the first time, what can they expect?
So when somebody comes to see us the first time, we go through a full sort of case history with them. So we'll go through a medical, probably a little bit more than a doctor actually. We'll ask them, you know, when the complaint started, what sort of things aggravate it, how you did it, if there's any history of it. And then once we've found out about the actual presenting complaint, we'll then go into past medical history as well to find out if there's anything that predisposes you, any previous operations, any previous illnesses or anything like that. Because one of the big things about osteopathy is we treat the whole body. So I think that's a key difference between chiropractic or physiotherapy, where with chiropractic they tend to go for the spine and the spinal nerves, which works fantastic and is really, really good. But with an osteopath, we're just as likely to look at your knee or your foot, or, you know, like later on today, I think we're going to be talking about some problems with nutrition and digestive problems. Often that's an area that, you know, because the nerves all exit from the spine, and because the nerves affect everything, and the blood supply affects everything, we find that we can help lots of other things that you wouldn't necessarily expect us to help.
I like that, because that's what nutrition is as well. You know, we're looking at the entire body, and we know that, you know, your digestion can even impact your head, you know, whether you're getting headaches. So that's awesome. So, yeah, I mentioned at the beginning osteopathy and nutrition and how they can complementary help people. So I just thought of a few conditions that, you know I've referred on to you before, and vice versa, you've referred back to me. So the first one I thought that we could talk about would be headaches. So I know, you know, that's quite common. It often comes up in a nutrition consultation. People say, you know, yeah, I wake up with headaches, or I've had chronic headaches for years, or yeah, they're just getting headaches. And I know from a nutritional perspective, there are a lot of reasons for that, that I try and, you know, like we're trying to treat the whole body, and we're trying to get to the root cause of the issue. So some of the reasons from a nutritional perspective could be hormone related. So, you know, an imbalance in estrogen and progesterone. Stress is another huge one, and I often find about 90% of my clients, when I give them a stress test, it has a huge impact on the body. Serotonin deficiency, which also comes down to the state of their gut health. Nutrient deficiency, so calcium and magnesium, which are also related to bone health. Blood sugar problems, so, you know, people having a lot of sugar or a lot of coffee at one time, and then blood sugars go up and then they crash really quickly, and that can definitely cause headaches. And a huge one in the nutritional field is food sensitivities. You know, you can be sensitive to absolutely anything out there, and not even necessarily present with any symptoms, but oftentimes headaches can be one amongst many symptoms that people can present with. And then lastly, for headaches, as from a nutritional perspective, would be toxic buildup. So, you know, obviously looking at what they are eating, what their macronutrients are or lack thereof, their environment, their work environment, you know, are they working with chemicals or fumes, their even personal care, you know, what kind of personal products are they using, because all of that can contribute and get into the body and create toxic buildup, and of course affect headaches. So from an osteopath point of view, what would...
Firstly, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Heather, that nutrition is extremely important with not just headaches, but with the whole body. And, you know, like as part of my training, actually, the course I actually did included naturopathy, which is using, you know, natural foods and things like that to help along with the body. So, you know, I totally wholeheartedly agree that nutrition is key with any injury. When it comes to headaches are something we do see very, very regularly. And I think it's important with headaches that there are lots of different types of headaches as well, and it's kind of working out which type of headache we're dealing with. And there's definitely for both of us, I think, you know, the sort of medical side of headaches, you know, depending on what sort of headache it is, we're always aware that if there's any sort of what we call red flags or any certain problems, we're fully in support of using our general practitioners and other tests and things to make sure that we're not treating anything that we shouldn't be. Having said that, what I found is that, the research says that actually 90% of straight headaches are actually originate from the top of, from your neck, or neck pain in origin. So we see a lot of headaches, and we do very well with headaches. And quite often what happens with headaches is these joints at the very top of your spine. This is the cervical spine here. There's 7 vertebrae in the cervical spine. But with headaches, this complex area at the top, which is called the upper cervical region, can get quite tight and quite stiff, and the muscles in this area called the suboccipital muscles can get quite tight, and this all aggravates this little nerve complex here. You can see the nerves come out the top here, and then there's like quite a tortuous sort of pathway for the vertebral artery where it runs up through the top, and then the top vertebrae actually kinks round and comes back again and then back into the head. So there's quite a lot going on at the very top of your occipital region. And with headaches sometimes, and particularly classically, a headache that comes from your neck classically comes over the occipital region and it goes behind one eye or behind both eyes. So the occipital region is the back of your head, so it kind of comes up and over and behind your eye. And that's, as soon as somebody says they have a headache like that, I'm 90% sure that it's probably going to be the upper cervical region that's the problem. Now, we have lots of gentle techniques we can use to loosen off this area, get that area functioning better. And going back to what I said at the very start with A.T. Still, where he kind of made that distinction between the structure of your body and how it functions. If your body's basically not in the right position, it doesn't function properly. So by getting this area moving better, often we can really relieve the pain of headaches. The other thing that comes up quite regularly with headaches is obviously they can be very much stress related. And what do we do when we get stressed? Immediately we get stressed, we tighten up like this, like we're in a radio interview, we get tight like this.
Do that all the time.
Get tight and your shoulders go up like this. So it's about breathing properly and getting them to breathe and breathe out and relax that shoulder area. But again, we've got lots of techniques we can use around the shoulder region as well to kind of relieve that tight muscle around there. So headaches is something that I feel that we do really well with. Migraines are a different ball game again. So migraines are a different type of headache, and with migraines, I found, I don't know what you found, Heather, but I found that often they're multifactorial. So if I'm absolutely honest, we do less well with migraines, although there's often, a neck factor within migraines, but it's just one piece of the pie. So there's lots of pieces of the pie. So I'd be looking at Heather to look at the nutrition side of things, and the allergy side of things, and which is really big with migraines. But even with a migraine, there's a huge opportunity for us to improve that piece of the pie that's related to the actual musculoskeletal system, but you need to get onto the other things as well.
So that would be a good opportunity for complementary therapy. So yeah,
definitely.
Okay. I just had a quick question about the headaches, and you said 90% from obviously the neck part. So if you're getting headaches, you get them in different areas of the head, but if you're getting them right back here, lower, would that stem? Would you associate that with the neck?
So often with the when you get headaches in the occipital region, it tends to be the headaches that tend to respond best to osteopathic treatment, or the ones we see most of, tend to be occipital region, so the back of your head, but they'll often radiate around behind one eye. There is a variation, and it's not everybody's an individual, which is a big thing with osteopathy as well. Everybody's different, so every person's treated as a different person as they come in, and that's the same with their symptom picture. So you can get people that get headaches in the frontal region, but it's still from the neck, so it's not a set rule,
right?
But certainly that will be where I would see most patients that respond best from, that kind of area. Okay,
very interesting. So if you're listening, I'm sure you've learned a thing or two about headaches. There's so many other issues, digestive issues, mentioned heartburn. I know from a nutritional perspective, I get a lot of older clients that talk about heartburn and indigestion and reflux in particular. And, looking at it physiologically, I find that it is oftentimes due to a lack of stomach acid, because it's, the hydrochloric acid in the stomach that keeps the sphincter, which is between your stomach and esophagus, nice and tight. So as we get older, we don't produce as much of that acid, and this can get very loose, and oftentimes people can experience reflux, heartburn, acid indigestion. So that's just a nutritional perspective of heartburn. Of course, stress is another huge one, because that stops the production of stomach acid as well, because obviously stomach acid is part of your digestive system. It's kind of step 2 in digesting your food. After you chew your food well, it goes to your stomach, and that food relies on that acid to really break your food down. But when you're stressed, your body's not trying to break your food down and concentrate on feeding the body. It's in a fight or flight mode. Therefore, you don't have that stomach acid. So from your perspective, from an osteopath perspective, what would be some reasons for that?
So we tend not to see, people don't really come to us as a first port of call for a lot of these digestive problems, but what's sort of happened over the years is that people have come to us for other problems, and in the process of treatment, we've because we go through quite a thorough case history, so we're probably aware of it anyway, but they may mention things like heartburn and stuff like that. And what I found is that quite often with heartburn, you get this, obviously you get, because of the sphincter like you already explained, but you get this acid into your esophagus, which gives you this pain. And if you're only getting heartburn rarely, I mean, I think it's not necessarily something that's to worry about. It's only when you're getting it regularly and it's causing a lot of problems. So everybody gets a bit of heartburn sometimes, but if it becomes a problem, then quite often from an osteopathic point of view, well, osteopathy anyway, we treat the whole body, whatever. So we're kind of looking around, and we don't change what we do. We always look around the whole body anyway. But one of the things what I would suggest with heartburn is quite often the diaphragm can be involved. And the diaphragm is the big breathing muscle that runs actually all the way around your chest, and it goes all the way back to your spine. It's a massive muscle, and it's very overlooked. With heartburn, the esophagus actually runs through the diaphragm. So if you can imagine, if the diaphragm's actually tight, it puts a little bit of pressure on the esophagus, which doesn't help with things like heartburn. And as osteopaths, we can actually work on the diaphragm, both directly and indirectly, under the ribs. And sometimes people find that can actually relieve heartburn quite a lot. And what normally happens is we're treating the body, as I say, as a whole, generally, and people will say, my heartburn's much better. And then you think, okay, well, that's probably the work we did on the diaphragm. So often it's incidental for us that we work on it. And then, of course, once the patient knows that we can help with that heartburn, they then go, I've got my heartburn again, and they want us to, treat their heartburn. So the diaphragm is just one area. The other area that comes to mind is obviously the innervation. So the innervation for the whole digestive system actually comes from your spine, and obviously we treat spines all the time. So by improving flexibility and mobility of the spine, you can actually improve the nervous input to those areas, which helps the muscle relax off as well. So really, for heartburn, it's looking at it more from a mechanical point of view. That mechanical point of view can make a huge difference to people sometimes.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I obviously studied anatomy and physiology, but to hear it from a different perspective and how they all influence each other, it's really fascinating.
The one thing I think you learn with osteopathy is how much different parts of the body influence different areas that you might not necessarily think of. But that happens to us all the time. Quite often we'll see people with knee problems, and they've been through a number of modalities of treatment, and people have concentrated on their knee and they're not got any better. And I've looked at their foot, and I've found that in the foot there's actually a joint that's not moving in the foot, and it even amazes me because I get the joint moving in the foot, and all of a sudden I don't touch the knee and the knee gets better. Right. So, and I think it's the same with the bigger systems and the digestive system and nutrition as well. I think that the body's an absolutely amazing piece of machinery, and how it interrelates blows me away. So I think that's key, and I'm very lucky to do what I do. Absolutely.
Well, we both definitely share the love and passion of the human body and how it works. And I know another huge one that's very, very common is constipation in people. And, I'd say about half the clients I see when I get to that question about bowel health suffer from constipation. And nutritionally, I'm sure a lot of listeners already know, obviously not getting enough water, not getting enough fiber, a diet too high in refined and processed foods, inactivity, even medications. A lot, I see people on antacids and antidepressants and all sorts of medications, and that, oftentimes they don't even realize, well, actually, hey, my constipation started when I was started all these medications. So it's a common side effect. Your gut bacteria, again, digestive system, lack of breaking your food down, and that hydrochloric acid, and even something like an underfunctioning thyroid can cause constipation. So again, as a nutritionist, I'm always trying to get to the root cause as well as to why they're suffering that constipation, so I can help. But I know, you can also complement that.
Yeah, it tends to be not necessarily something that people come in firsthand to see us about. We don't get many people coming and say, look, I've come to see you because I've got constipation.
Right.
But we do get a lot of people that come in with, obviously, a lot of people that come in with low back pain. And when we treat their low back pain and we start improving the mobility and how their back functions, they suddenly say, my constipation's gone. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because obviously the gut is supplied, or the large intestine is supplied by nerves that come out from this lumbar spine area, and this mesh of nerves supplies the gut completely. And if this area is not moving properly, or is stuck, or is tight, it affects the nerve supply to the gut. And if the nerve supply to the gut is affected, and it can often slow the motility of the gut, so therefore the gut doesn't get the nerve signals as much, so it doesn't push as much. So you end up with the food passing through your gut slower. So by working indirectly on the spine and improving the flexibility of the spine and improving that nervous impulse, it improves the motility of the gut. Improve the motility of the gut moves better, the food goes through quicker, and the constipation goes. Obviously not always, but in certain situations, yes.
So to do that, do you do, I know it's all hands-on, do you do like pressure points, massage, like twisting? Yeah,
so we have a whole variety of techniques. We use lots of different things. So we use massage, we use something called articulation, which is kind of just basically encouraging the joint to move. Okay. So we just kind of give it a little bit more than you normally would, just to get a little bit more movement through there. We use techniques called BLT, which is where you kind of loosen off the ligaments by taking it to the point of ease, and when you get the ligament at the point of ease, it eases a little bit further. And we also use manipulation, where we actually gap the joint to get it moving. When that's a very, very small movement, but it gaps the joint. That's where you get the click from your back, where you get the clicking. That's caused by a change in pressure in the joint, and the joint gaps, comes back together, and it moves better. So we use that, and that's a very low amplitude. It's not anything that's is painful usually. It's quite harmless, and that works really, really well to instantly improve the mobility. And we with osteopathy, Heather, obviously each patient's different. If we're seeing a 85-year-old frail old lady, the techniques we're going to choose are very different to somebody we're seeing who's 20. And we're fortunate we have lots of stuff in our tool bag that we can pick out to use as well. Excellent.
Well, that was very enlightening to me. I learned quite a few things there. I know we're running out of time, but if you were listening in today, I've had a guest, Neil Evans from Evans Osteopath, and he's discussed what osteopathy is, a little bit about his background, and being a nutritionist myself, we've talked about how osteopathy and nutrition can complement each other, and how we can refer back and forth for a lot of different issues. So we've covered headaches today, a little bit about heartburn, digestive issues, constipation. Another one I wanted to touch on was IBS, but we didn't have time for that. We covered a little bit about that with digestion. But yeah, if you're listening out there and you're suffering with something similar to this, or one of these issues, get in touch. I think working together, if someone comes to see you and comes to see me, together, we can really help improve someone's health. So Neil, just for the listeners, can you just remind them where you're located and how they can get in touch to book with you?
Yeah, so we have two practices at the moment. We have one practice in Hastings, which is 2 blocks away from Pack and Save on Charles Street, and we have one practice in Waipuck, which is opposite New World Supermarket, right in the central town, and we're called Evans Osteopaths.
Great.
And I never even got to mention visceral osteopathy.
Okay.
About the organs.
Oh, right.
That's okay. We can do that another time.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. It sounds like another show. So, what's your website or phone number?
Oh, yeah. So our phone number is 870-3490, and the website is just evansosteopaths.co.nz.
Excellent. So if you're listening, check out Neil's website. I'm sure there's a lot of helpful information on there, and I'm sure give him a call and just share, what issues you have, and go on in, and I'm sure he can help with that. And again, if you're listening, Food for Life. I'm a registered nutritionist, so you can find me at G's Pharmacy in Taradale, and my website is foodforlife.co.nz. You're welcome to email me at heather@foodforlife.co.nz, or give me a ring or a text if you just want to have a complimentary chat to see if I can help you on 027-812-5071. So thanks a lot, Neil, for coming into the studio and sharing. I really did enjoy that, and I learned quite a few things.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.